wasn't working. I hit go.
Hello, everyone. We have a king of the sprints. After a 7-year interregnum, when no one was able to win the 100 and 200 at the same global championship, Noah Lyles has done it. He's your 100-meter world champion. He's your 200-meter world champion. 19.52 to take the gold medal, his third straight in this event in Budapest on Friday night. Not to be outdone, Shericka Jackson went back-to-back in the women's 200. She gets the gold, 21.41, the second fastest time in history behind only Flojo. Gabby Thomas nails the silver for the U.S. Sha'Carri Richardson gets her second medal of the championships, bronze there. Erriyon Knighton adding another medal for the U.S. in the men's race, silver for him. Letsile Tebogo, the bronze for Botswana. We had a crazy women's triple jump. One of the heaviest favorites of the entire meet, Yulimar Rojas, the world record holder, only snuck into the final stage of the final, getting those 3 final attempts. But she made them count, gets out to 15.08 meters on her final attempt at the competition to win the gold medal. She's your champion. There was a women's javelin throw final. I don't think we're going to discuss it very much, but Haruka Kitaguchi of Japan is the world champion in that one. And we had the 800 semis. Athing Mu almost fulls. This was like tragedy struck 450 meters in, but Mo recovered very quickly, made the final, is looking good for the final on Sunday. The showdown against Keely Hodgkinson and Mary Mara and Nia Akins now, that is set. We'll break that down. Jonathan Gault here in Budapest. Weldon Johnson to my left. Another great night of the track. Right? Well,
Fabulous. The sprints delivered.
Did they? The women's sprints delivered. I think that women's 200 delivered. The men's 200. Look, Noah Lyles becoming the double world champ's a big deal, but I feel like it was a little anticlimactic, especially after his 19.10 promulgation.
The time was a bit disappointing, but if I told you Noah Lyles is going to come in and pull off the double, you're going to be disappointed. And talking to Lance Prominence coach afterwards, we're like, Lance, a little disappointed at the time, essentially. And he's like, no, I want him to cross the finish line first. And he pointed out Shani Motorwebo at one point was like meters from a gold medal and fell down, right? So he's seen it happen. And the other thing he pointed out, he's like, Noah's never done it at this level before the double. So this is his 6th race. And is that right?
6th race of the championship, 6 races in 7 days, because this is day 7. And no, it's super impressive. He's right about that, because not only has no one done the 100-200 double at Worlds since Bolt in 2015, no one has done any sort of individual double on the men's side. The only person who has won 2 events of the same world championship since Bolt and Farah did in 2015 in Beijing was Lyles in the 100 and 200. And then I put that tweet out. I'm like, I'm good. That's the only one. And then I'm like, you forgot about the race walk, Jonathan. Yeah. There is a guy, Alvaro Martin of Spain, won the 20K and the 35K in Budapest. So those are the only 2 guys to double up in individual events at the same championships. It's not easy to do. Wade Van Niekerk, everyone assumed he would do it in London in 2017. He got upset in the 200 by Ramil Guliev. The 100 champion hasn't been able to do it in the 200 the last few years. Curly, Marcel Jacobs wasn't even in the 200 in Tokyo. It's not easy. So Lyles, I give him a lot of credit for that. But the one thing, I guess, he gets like an A, maybe an A+, but he doesn't get an A++ because he didn't hit those times he put out there. But I don't want to come across as criticizing it. It's just, we have seen him run faster.
I mean, yeah, he ran better last year in Eugene, but
in that race,
he still won this one by what, 0.2?
Oh, comfortably. Clearly the best man in the world. And this is why he took on the 100, because he knew even if I'm not if I don't run my absolute best, even if I have 3 rounds of the 100 in my legs already, I am so clearly the best man in the world at 200 that I can afford to go out there and still win. And he did.
Cracking a beer here for people. I don't advocate it, but this might be my last show. Pretty sure I'm coming down with Jakob Ingebrigtsen's illness. When you're close there in the mix zone, Jakob, I apologize for questioning anything. I think there's something going around. I will have it tomorrow. We'll see if I'm ready for the reporting finals.
Well, it's going to bail on the distance finals. He got here. He's just here talking about the sprints. Tomorrow's we got women's 5K final, men's 800 final, and women's steeple, I think, as well. We got a bunch of stuff to discuss. And you better be on this podcast, Weldon.
I'll do it. I may not be up in 5 hours. 6 hours for the marathon. By the time this is over, 5 hours. But I think Lyles, John, this was the first race for me at the championships. Our seats are essentially dead on looking down the 100-meter straight. And John's like, I got to go move over and get a better shot at the finish line. So we walked over about, 70 meters. So we're dead on the finish line, right above the finish line in the upper deck. And he had a big lead. I thought that was a huge lead. He won by 0.4 last year. And I was expecting a faster time, and we didn't get it.
That's why I was surprised you thought that, because last year was clear. Okay, he's he had a lead off the ton. This time, him and Tebogo were basically even coming off the ton, and he separated. But I was lucky. I'm like, yeah, he's got a gap, but it's not. It was clear it wasn't going to be a world record. You need Bolt Bolt ran 19.19. That gap was enormous, and it wasn't in this race. But again, I'm not I'm not criticizing him for not running the world record. I'm just saying it was very clear he didn't have that margin. To me, at least.
Yeah, I guess I forgot how much he won by last year.
You got to go back and watch that Bolt final in 2009. It was just absolutely absurd how far ahead he is.
And Noah afterwards, they're sort of asking him, how does it feel? And he's, maybe Andre said the best. He's like, these are Noah Lyles championships. He's like, he's doing what I always wanted to do. And he said, a couple guys didn't make it in the 100 from the U.S. Curly, I guess, didn't make the final, but who else are we missing? We're expecting Michael Norman to go in there and do something?
Well, yeah, Charleston didn't make the final. They had Coleman and Lyles. But yeah, no, this is Noah Lyles championship. He said this will be remembered as the start of a dynasty. We'll see about that, but this was clearly Noah Lyles is the performer of the meet, double gold, sprint king. Again, that's no one since Bolt has owned the sprints the way Noah Lyles does right now. And no matter what, he wants that Olympic gold medal in Paris. He wants to go down alongside some of these huge names in history. That gold medal is missing from his resume right now, but what he has done already is pretty damn impressive. If you look at the sprinters on the men's side of the World Championships, most gold medals in individual sprint events. Usain Bolt, no surprise, number 1 at 7. Michael Johnson, number 2 at 6. Lyles is tied for 3rd with Maurice Green. They've both got 4. Noah Lyles is, I think at this point, can we call him a legend of track and field? Would you feel comfortable saying that?
A guy with 0 Olympic gold medals?
Yeah, that's my question.
No.
Okay.
That's all time. That's sort of crazy, but you need
that doesn't count the Olympics. If you add in the Olympics, I think Carl Lewis probably moves up a bit, because obviously Lyles doesn't have any. Carl Lewis won the 100 twice. He won the 284. He won some, I think, 3 world titles in the 100. So
I will call him the face of men's track and field right now, but he's not yet a legend. You need an Olympic. Generally, I would say you need an Olympic gold medal. I'm sure there's some people. Roger Bannister never won an Olympic gold medal. He's a legend of the sport. So there's a possible way Noah could do it.
He's the best sprinter of his generation.
Well, right now, but John, did you see who was in 2nd and 3rd place today?
I think I've heard their names a couple times on this podcast. Yeah, it was Erriyon Knighton, who's 19, and Letsile Tebogo, who is 20. They ran good races. This was Knighton's best race of the year, which you can't say about last year when he got the bronze. And he has moved up. He was 4th at the Olympics when he was 17. He was 3rd at the Worlds last year when he was 18. 2nd at the Worlds this year when he's 19. So he's moved up, but there's still a sizable gap between these two and Noah Lyles, and they only have 1 year to close it. You can make a lot of gains from 19 to 20 or 20 to 21, but I don't know. At this point, the clock is ticking with less than a year away, I think you have to say he's the heavy favorite in the 200.
He's definitely the heavy favorite in the 200. But if Robert Johnson was on this show right now and wanted to make his bold prediction for next year, I think he still could make. I mean, he could still make the prediction that made Michael Johnson go, oh, "Are you crazy?" He could still say, "I don't think Noah Lyles will win a gold medal next year." I don't know what the odds are of that, but it's so hard in this sport. It all comes down to one day, 19 point however many seconds. There's not a lot of room for error, and you can get injured in the lead up. One of these guys could improve. I mean, the thing with Noah is, and I think he's gotten better at this. I mean, he pointed out in the press conference today, his first world title, he won in 19.8. He said afterwards today that he couldn't watch that race for like a long time because he's so disappointed in it. It was like one of his worst performances on a big stage for him, sort of time-wise. He's like, I was running faster than that. And he's like, for me to run 19.8, you could just tell he wasn't happy with it. 19.3 last year, 19.5 this year. Like those are very good performances. Winning the 100, he's not going to give that away. But the one thing he said today was like, people were sort of asking him about the time, and he said, "Oh, a little bit. I wanted to go faster, but you have to come and take these championships. They don't give them away. You come here and you earn it. You take it. It's there for the taking. I took both these, and I think Knighton and Tebogo sort of both really good races, but they were sort of, I get that. I'm learning." And they asked Tebogo about next year, and he's like, "I'm not thinking about next year right now." Like, so tonight was the night.
Yeah, I don't want to get caught up and say, "Oh, what about Paris?" Like, the World Championships is a huge deal, and obviously the Olympics is one step beyond that, but winning the 100 and 200 at Worlds is a massive deal. Everyone shows up to this meet. He's the fastest man in the world. The one thing I do think is interesting, though, we've been making these Bolt comparisons because really there aren't that many other guys you can compare him to. Like Noah Lyles, only 2 men in history faster than him in the 200. Bolt's the only one to ever win more world titles in the 200 than Lyles. Lyles has 3. Bolt has 4. No one else has more than 2. So we are making these comparisons. Obviously, the personal bests aren't quite there yet, but that's how good Lyles is that we're comparing him to Bolt. But honestly, like what Lyles did this meet kind of made me think Usain Bolt might actually be underrated. Well then, because Noah Lyles, he's like, I was running 19.5, but it was my 6th race of the championships. You can get tired, and I get that. But this was Noah Lyles' 6th race in 7 days tonight, the men's 200 meter final. When Usain Bolt set his 2 world records in the 200, 19.30 in Beijing, and then 19.19 in Berlin. Both of those races was his 8th race in 6 days. So not only did he have 1 fewer day than Lyles, the schedules were more compressed, but he had to run an extra round in both the 100 and the 200. I don't know why thank goodness they got rid of those. I can't think of anything. Like, can you imagine if they had them at this meet? The only reason those rounds would be around would just be getting the biggest stars full starting. That would be the risk. Like, it's good that we're down to just 3 rounds in those events. But I'm just like, man, Usain Bolt, he was producing these performances with 7 rounds in his legs already. Granted, he didn't have to go super hard to qualify in a lot of those races, but still, it's just God, Usain Bolt was just so good.
I mean, he didn't get tired. And these guys, one other thing that sort of struck me was Bolt, I think, was more powerful than him. He became a stronger guy, but when he was younger, he's sort of the lanky 200-meter runner. Tebogo and Knighton are definitely of that build. And then even seeing Lyles, I think he I don't know if he probably hasn't lost weight, but he's not as big as guys like Curly or something like that. So these guys all have a certain body type, and it's made for the 200. When they come down, none of these guys yet are at the stage yet, obviously, at Bolt in the 100. There's tons of question marks next year.
Lyles never will be. And Tebogo ran 9.91 as a 19-year-old, and he's celebrating way before the line. I mean, Tebogo has a better chance of getting Bolt's record than Lyles in the 100, and even then, it's going to be insanely hard. But no, Noah Lyles is a 200. He's the world champion in the 100, but he's clearly the 200 is clearly his best event, and he's also an exceptional 100-meter runner. But Bolt was the greatest of all time in both.
Yeah. And one thing Noah said at the press conference was, they're like, "Oh, Noah, do you want to be a star bigger than the sport?" And he's like, "Yes, I do." And now he's got a Netflix crew following around. So,
well, the Netflix crew, that was supposed to be focused on the sprint stars, and maybe it's focused on the 100. I know, like Curly, I think, is one of the guys I've been focused on, but I assume if it was focused on the 200, I'm kind of confused why they wouldn't be following Lyles around. But my guess is it's just focusing on the 100-meter runners. And Lyles was like, "Yeah, they weren't really paying attention to me, and then I won in Paris, and they got friendly real quick. So after he won the Paris Diamond League, they're like, oh, this guy could be a contender, and then they started following a little more. So not only does he have this untitled, the Noah Lyles project that he's producing along with Peacock. The first part came out before Worlds. The second part will come out before the Pre-Classic. But it does look like Lyles will now be a central participant in the Netflix series that will come out next year before the Olympics.
Yeah, there was definitely camera crews following like his agent and stuff around in the media area, even filming us, some of them, like us talking to Lance Browman. I think Sha'Carri had the same thing going for her. So it'll be interesting to see what they come out with.
Thank goodness they're following Sha'Carri around. I heard a rumor that they want like following her. I'm like, look, love her or hate her, Sha'Carri is compelling content, and if you're doing a documentary about the sprint stars, she needs to be in it. So that's good to hear.
And then they were saying to Noah, like, what do we need to do to make the sport bigger? And he's like, he has lots of ideas, but he's like, essentially, he wanted Usain Bolt to be at the meet. He wants Usain Bolt to be there watching, like
Usain. Come on,
Usain Bolt. So like, he should be there watching the meet. You know, Michael Johnson's there.
I thought that was an interesting comment. There are a lot of track legends in Budapest. Like David Rudisha is here. Michael Johnson does commentary. There, World Athletics will invite and bring a lot of these people in. But yeah, we haven't seen Bolt. I don't remember Bolt. I don't think was in Eugene last year either. You would think if Bolt was at some of these meets, they'd definitely be shown on the big screen or let people know he's there. So it is interesting because Bolt has said he kind of wants to have a role in the sport moving forward. I can't imagine World Athletics wouldn't have invited Bolt and said, "Hey, you're welcome, and we'll roll out the red carpet." They would have been foolish if they haven't taken that step.
They should welcome him, but in some ways they probably don't want him to overshadow the current people, right? But I don't know, at the World Cup, until Pele couldn't come this year, he probably went to all the World Cups.
Maradona, they'd show him in the stands in every Argentina game.
Right. So they should have brought him. But let's switch to the women's 200, where Shericka Jackson, she gets it done. She runs the second fastest time ever, 21:41. And looked disappointed afterwards. I mean, it was crazy. This is the PB championship record. And the only thing better than it is Flojo's world record. And when she finished, she just sort of looked at the clock and you're sort of wondering, what's going on? Are you not happy about this? But at the press conference, she explained it. She's like, look, one, I need to make sure the time's legal. And then she also told John, she wrote down 2 times on her bib. The slowest was 12:40.
21:40.
Excuse me, 21:40. So when she sees 21:41 come up, she actually was disappointed. John tried to get it out of her what the other time was. She wouldn't reveal to the journalist there.
I'm guessing it was 12:33 or faster. 21. Now you've got me saying it. Oh my god.
2 a.m.
Okay.
But
no. 21:41. Yeah, it's a terrific run, but it's a great run. There are a lot of people I think would think this is the clean world record. And, you can never say 100% with certainty if any athlete's clean, but I think a lot of people believe she's more inclined to be clean than Flojo was. But when you run 21:45 last year, obviously you're within range of the world record. She's thought of the world record, and to come only 0.07 away, she was close. This is the closest anyone's ever come to it in 35 years. So obviously you're like, oh man, it would be nice. It was like Noah Lyles last year. Remember, he ran 19:32. He looks at the clock. He was like, yeah, okay, but he was like, damn, I tied Johnson's record. Like, he wanted the record. So I totally understand the thinking. Afterwards, she's like, she had some time to reflect on it. She's like, no, I can't be disappointed. I ran a personal best. I ran a championship record. Yeah, but I appreciate the perspective. I can totally understand if you've got a time you're shooting for, whatever time was on her bib, and you're close, but you don't get it. Yeah, I can understand. Well, actually, I don't know. I don't know what it's like to win a world title, so I can't tell you at all what it's like to understand. But she's the defending champ, and the way she explained it made sense to me. Now, she was also asked a question, then pretty similar to the question I asked her in the mixed zone in Eugene last year. There's only one person who's gone faster than her. It's Flojo. We all know there are serious questions about Flojo's massive improvement and then almost immediate exit from the sport at the end of the 1988 season when they started introducing drug testing and
random
drug testing. And I kind of tried to ask her last year in the mixed zone, do you believe in that time? And she didn't really let me finish the question and just thought it was a little insulting. But then another journalist in this press conference afterwards asked her a very similar question and actually got a pretty interesting response. So we're going to play that exchange for you now.
As all journalists, we know that women's world records from the 90s, 80s can't really be trusted. Don't you just feel the world record, that you are the world record holder?
Firstly, and I said this last year, I'm not one of those athletes who will question anybody's world record. If a person has never failed a test, I cannot comment on any world record. It is the world record. When you see that time comes up, you will see championship record, world record. So I'm not the world record holder, I'm a championship record holder.
Thank you. Next question from there.
Broken up for you. I'm not sure if it did for you guys, but at the very beginning, she said, I can't comment on anyone who hasn't failed a test. She's like going to give them the benefit of the doubt. Essentially is what she's saying. She's like, I'm a championship record holder. She doesn't like it because she thinks it's not fair. She's like, she didn't flunk a test. How can I assume she was dirty? I'm glad she answered that, because last year, like, when she doesn't answer, you're just like, why are you getting so upset about this? There's a logic to what she's saying, John. Like, because if you're there and people are like, oh, Shericka, you're so fast, you have to be dirty. She's like, essentially, if, you're clean. You're like, F you. I don't like that logic.
I think it's also these great athletes don't like putting limits on themselves, and they don't want to, there's a reason why we obsess over these world records, and there's a reason why we always kind of have to put these caveats in, but it's just so much simpler if there's just someone on top who doesn't have the levels of suspicion that Flojo does. We had this in the shot put as well. Remember Ryan Krauser, before he was breaking the world record, people would say, oh, that was the clean world record he threw, because we all just thought Randy Barnes marked. We knew Randy Barnes was a doper, and we're like, no one, a clean athlete may never get that. And Ryan Krauser didn't think of it that way. He's like, well, my goal is to get the farthest ever. So if you're Shericka Jackson and what's driving you to run fast is 21:34, sure, take that approach. I respect what she had to say. Her opinion makes sense to me. It's not the one I don't necessarily view that event the way she would as a journalist versus a competitor. But if that's the approach she takes, it makes sense to me.
Yeah, I was glad to get an answer. And then related to that, about putting limits on themselves or whatnot, someone asked Sha'Carri, like, what are your goals for next year? She's like, I don't have goals. I thought it was very interesting. Like, I don't have goals. Like, goals put limits on yourself. I essentially just want to do the best I can do. And I haven't heard an athlete ever say that, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, most people, you can like, most people just say, "Oh, I want to win the Olympics in the 100 and 200," right?
Right.
Because that one, there is nothing higher. You can't just say, "I want to get like 0th or negative first." That's like, you can have those goals and still not limit yourself at the time. But yeah, fantastic run by Shericka Jackson. Gabby Thomas gets the silver medal, moves up one spot on the podium from Tokyo. Nice redemption story for her. Remember, she was injured. Didn't even make the final at USA's last year in the 200 meters. And now healthy, runs the 21.60 at the US trials and comes back here a little slower tonight, 21.81. I don't really think there was any way that Gabby Thomas was beating Shericka Jackson. She would have needed to run a massive PB to do it, but a very strong race for her in second. And then Sha'Carri Richardson. The other thing we should talk about, her transformation in 2023 to become the world champion in the 100. The other thing she's done is become a very good 200 runner. She was not a massive star in this event before this year, had never broken 22 seconds. Remember when she won the 100 NCAAs, I think everyone kind of expected later in that day for her to come back and win the 200. She didn't do that. Now she's one of the very best in the world in the 200 meters. She runs a personal best 21.92 to get the bronze. I think we're seeing the difference here is Jackson's a 200 specialist and Richardson's a 100 specialist, and they are both very good at the other event. But Jackson said it herself, the 200's her baby. She's an incredible 100 runner, but this is the one she's best at in her favorite event. And she's also a former medalist in the 400. Let's not forget that as well. So really versatile. But yeah, that was your final there. Julian Alfred, the NCAA champ, 4th, 22.05. Marie-Jose Telu, rough end for her. Dead last, 22.64 after coming close to a medal in the 100.
Yeah, I mean, coming in, he said Sha'Carri is going to leave with a 100-meter gold, 200-meter bronze. I think that was pretty much the ceiling you could expect for her. There's no way she beats these two in the 200.
No, this was best case scenario, this World Championships for Sha'Carri. Correction, Gabby Thomas did make the final in the 200 at USA's last year. She just got lost. But yeah, Richardson, she said she was the first American to medal in both of these events on the women's side since 2011. And she's the first US woman to win the gold in the 100 since 2017. She gets the bronze. This could not really have gone any better realistically. And now she'll get the 4x1. And that's going to be fun. You got the Americans, you got the Jamaicans. I would say between having Shelly Ann and Shericka on the same team, you'd probably favor the Jamaicans, but they were even heavier favorites last year and they got beat. So the final will be fun. And it was interesting to hear Sha'Carri talk. She's like, look, we got respect for all of the runners in these fields. We know how hard it is to get here. We know how hard it is to win medals. So we got to have respect for each other that way. But you can also tell that they're rivals and they want to beat each other, and they'll get that chance in the 4x1 final.
Yeah, one of the things I like best about Sha'Carri sort of arriving on the stage was the respect the Jamaicans have for her as a performer. In the past, this whole rivalry's played up, and they sort of said, oh, the media was going with that. I don't know if that was totally the case, because Sha'Carri was getting a lot of attention for stuff off the track instead of what she was doing on the track. And I think I'm just putting words into Shelly Ann's mouth, but like when she got beat, they can respect that performance. I think that's what happened. And then today you could tell there was a great respect for them. And Sha'Carri's like, yeah, we want to beat each other, but there's friendship there. There's a mutual respect. We're all doing the same thing. But then at the same time, when they ask Shericka about the 4x1, it's like game on. Like they're all ready to go. Elaine Thompson-Herah, wasn't in an individual event. She ran today in the prelim. The U.S. women almost didn't make it to the final.
Very shaky second exchange. Almost ran out of the zone. I was still waiting. I honestly haven't checked the results in a while. I kept waiting. I'm like, that's one of these things you might get a DQ after they review the video evidence. It was TT Terry to Tamara Clark. Looks like they're still all right. But yeah, that one, I was watching it live. I was like, they took a very long time to complete that handoff. And TT Terry kind of accepted the fault on that one. She said, yeah, that's on me as the incoming runner. Tomorrow's basically running blind. It's up to me to get it done, and I couldn't quite manage it. But they got the stick around. They'll be subbing in Sha'Carri for the final, I'm sure. Maybe Gabby Thomas as well. Gabby said she wants to run the relay, but she's like, I don't even know when the decision's coming on that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But yeah, that'll be a fun one for sure.
I think they should save Gabby for the 4x4. I don't think they put her on both. But
could she be the next Allison Felix? Allison Felix is always able to get on both. It's kind of like, well, when you see it's you pick the best team, right? You pick have these relay camps, and you see who's good at handling the baton and that sort of stuff, and you go with your best squad. And if that causes someone who was left off last year, Leah Hobbs, in the 4x1, and they still won it, like that wasn't their strongest team on paper, right?
I mean, did Abby Steiner run the 4x1 last year?
Yes, she did.
So I don't understand how they make the teams all the time, but I feel like there was times at the very end. Allison ran tremendous last year, but sometimes I felt like, oh, they're putting on this one to get another medal. Maybe that's just a cynic in me.
Oh no, I did feel towards the end that they would force her onto that 4x1, but there is also something to be said about continuity. Allison was part of 4x1 teams that had success. She was part of the 4x1 team that broke the world record. Even if she wasn't the best flat out 100-meter runner, they won the Olympics in 2016. And she didn't make that 100 team. She was a 200, 400 runner at that point, but she was on a team that got the stick around cleanly and won the gold medal. So something you got to factor that in. You can't just totally ignore this person's got proven championship experience and good championship experience, not like some of the other American men who are on these relay teams that failed year after year.
Right. There's something to be said about one, also someone who's done it under the pressure, knows how to get the stick around. Like that was one thing the American women said. They're like, oh, look, our team changes every year. We're thinking about the Jamaicans. They probably have, they might have the same 4 as last year, right? Like, I mean, it might be 3 out of the 4 same legs every single time. Just as infrequently as the U.S. practices, I think that's an issue. So,
well, also we heard that there's been rumors of drama at U.S. relay camp. I mean, the rumor was that I don't even, I don't have any of this confirmed, so I don't know how much we want to talk about it, but there were some rumors surrounding some testiness, maybe between Gabby Thomas and some members of Dennis Mitchell's camp, which would be TT Terry and Sha'Carri Richardson, or someone showed up late to camp. I don't know exactly what happened, but it didn't seem like it was the smoothest situation. So they're on to the final. It'll be interesting to see if they have any issues in the final.
Wow. You only get the rumor mill out of John at 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, these are just Twitter people like saying, but I mean, there was passive aggressive tweets. Like Gabby Thomas had some tweet out there. I think TT Terry had something like there's clearly something had happened that they didn't want to go into details, but they weren't all chanting Kumbaya and holding hands out there.
Drama can be good for the sport. All right, John, should we? Well, apparently, I think you want to discuss some field events before we get to the 800.
Rojo has also asked about this. Maybe it's because this is a woman after his own heart, Ro Haas, very similar, but he's like, have you given credit to the female Rojas? She's clutch. She absolutely is, Robert. We did mention her briefly, but I guess here is the situation. Yulma Rojas, basically unbeatable at these championships. I don't know how many she's won in a row at this point. I think London 2017 was her first one. I don't think she's lost since then. She's got the world record. She was a massive favorite in the women's triple jump, as big a favorite as you can get. Yet she fouls her first jump, and her next two are pretty pedestrian by her standards. 14.33 meters, 14.26 meters. So, you're looking going into you need to be in the top 8 to get your final 3 attempts in the final. You get 3, and then the top 8 get another 3 for a total of 6. But if you're not in the top 8 after 3 rounds, you only get those 3 attempts. And it was so close to going out because she was tied with Katora Orji for 8th place, but Rojas had a second best mark of 14.26. Orji fouled her last two jumps. She had no second best mark. That tiebreaker goes to Rojas. Rojas was able to take her final three jumps. She fouled the fourth one. She fouled the fifth one. So she's trailing by some distance to Marina Beck-Romanchuk, who goes 15 meters. But she's super clutch, comes up 15.08 in round 6 when she absolutely has to. She gets the best jump of the competition on the final one, and she's your world champion yet again. So, yeah, when you're talking about like, okay, one moment to win it or lose it, this would have been a massive choke. She wouldn't have even been in the medals. She goes all the way from 8th up to the gold medal on her final attempt. When's the last time that's happened? Someone's gone from 8th to gold in the final round of a jump?
Yeah. I mean,
Doesn't
only
happen.
somebody with a talent like this, but what are you going to say? She got it done. But she's also jumped, what, 2/3 of a meter, 2 feet further than this before. So she's got more room for error because clearly it wasn't all there for her today. I mean, she wasn't jumping that well, but she's the gold medalist. And there was drama, John, in the javelin. Last throw win there. The javelin, John had a great point. So, John, I'm going to make you pronounce her name.
The winner of the javelin or the Colombian woman who had the lead?
Oh, both of them.
Yeah. I mean, Haruka Kitaguchi, that seems pretty simple. The Colombian who was in the lead, South American record, by the way, for the silver, Flor Denise Ruiz Hurtado. All right. It's just kind of long. But, we don't give the women's javelin a whole lot of love on the LetsRun.com Track Talk podcast. This is probably the first time all year we've actually discussed this event. But it is kind of crazy. We're at the World Championships. I look up. It's like round 5. And the person who's leading, I see the Colombian flag next to their name. And I'm just like, Colombia has a world-class women's javelin thrower? Like, this was news to me. I didn't realize this. So,
but she came in like having done nothing. I think like 8th in the world, 10th in the world, something like that.
Oh, the Tasalga of the women's javelin then.
But John pointed this out, and this is more the men's side. We've had winners from Grenada, Kenya,
India,
Trinidad
and Tobago. That's only in the last 12 years.
We almost had a Colombian win the women's today, and we had a Japanese woman.
And we had the reigning world champion in the women's side before tonight was Australia.
Right.
You can win the javelin from anyone. And I don't know if that's just, is the technique simpler to learn? Is it just more readily? I mean, you need more room to practice the javelin than you do basically any other field event, apart from the hammer throw, maybe. It's kind of odd to me that will be the one that's taken off globally. But I don't know. I mean, Julius Yego, the former world champion from Kenya, he learned to throw the javelin by watching YouTube videos. So maybe it is the technique's just not quite as hard to pick up. I don't know. I still can't imagine that's that easy. But I love it. I love that this event's so global. We have a true world champion as opposed to some of these other disciplines where half the world doesn't pay it as much attention.
Yeah, it's just sort of bizarre. And the Japanese woman, she trains in the Czech Republic. Good javelin thrower, so they have a history.
Yeah, it used to be like it used to be like Norway, Finland, Czech Republic. Germany's got that. That was sort of the hub, and you still have good throwers from those countries, especially on the men's side. But the reigning world champions from Grenada, the Olympic champions from India. So you can't have success from the javelin anyway.
So can we now turn to the women's 800, or is there any more?
No, it's time. We need to address this Athing Mu situation. This was wild. Well then.
All right. So this was the third heat, right?
Yes.
Well, but we're starting with Athing Mu.
Yes.
She's in heat number 3. She runs the first lap, not on the lead, kind of out in lane 2. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, she has no experience running in packs. She doesn't really have a lot of race strategy experience because she's honestly used to being in front of everybody. And then they go around the turn, like just past 350 to go. I'm still not really sure exactly what happened. I think her leg got clipped from behind. She's got that long cadence. She stumbles, doesn't go down, kind of ventures out, gets a little bit behind the pack, and just
She lost all momentum, though.
loses 100% of her momentum, comes back, and finishes in second place. Gets the final automatic qualifying spot in this heat behind Mary Mora, who took it out super hard fast in this one. I was very impressed with this run. Maybe Keeley could do that. I mean, Mary Mora has gone from first to last to first in a race before, but Robert always says you get one move in the 800. Well, she had spent a lot of her move getting back to the pack and then just making sure she got in the top two, excuse me. So there was no room for error. You know, conceivably they might have put her in the final if she didn't get in the top two, but she didn't risk that. She made it and is one of 3 Americans in the final. A great day for the American 800-meter women. Perhaps we shouldn't be surprised. We had 3 women in the finals last year. We're the best country at this event in the world, but there are a lot of question marks on this event in general coming in from the United States. Athing Mu, was she even going to race? Raven Rogers, she's a gamer. She always brings it. Well, she always makes the world finals, it seems like, but there are a lot of question marks this year. Like, oh, is she even going to make the team? Oh, yes. Okay, boom. All right, well, she hasn't been quite herself. Is she going to make the final? Boom. Yes, she does.
But she was also in the easiest heat. She only had to run 2 flat to make the final. I think in the final, that's where it's going to be like, I mean, Nia Akins beat her to win USA's. Do you think Raven could win a medal? I feel like it's insulting to say no because she's won 2 of the last 3, but I think it's more like last year where she's like 6th or something. The top 3 is just better. Could be top 5. I think Nia Akins is better than her as well right now. Maybe Jamariki too. I think all of those women would beat her.
Yeah, expect them to beat her. She needs to step up in performance to get a medal. These other women, Nia Akins right now is my number 4 pick behind Mary Mora, but like she's running so fabulous, but it's been so under the radar because she was in the first heat with Keeley. Keeley wins at 148.48. Nia's right there, 158.61. And the crazy thing is, this is a PR. This is a woman I've been saying all along. She's a dark horse medal threat. She's never run this fast before. 158, it's nothing these days. It doesn't usually make you a medal threat, but she's looked so good in all of her races. She hasn't lost a race this year. I mean, besides these prelims, but
yeah, she hasn't gotten in a fast race. She's clearly, to my eyes, she's clearly in 157 shape right now. And the question is she in I think you need to be in 156 shape to medal? She could be. We don't know. You know, it's not like she's been out running Diamond Leagues or anything like that. So very impressive stuff from Akins. But the Athing Mu race impressed me for 2 reasons. One was that she was still able to run 158.7 while having her momentum, basically coming to almost a complete stop. And that shows she's clearly very fit right now. And that was one of our questions. Is she in the 155 shape? Or 156 shape she's been in the last couple of years. We all thought probably, given how well she ran at USA's, but we don't totally know. This was wow. Yeah, you got to be fit to be able to do that. Number 2 was how she responded. You know, she responded to this was a year and a half ago, but when she started getting smoked at the Milrose Games of the mile, she just responded by stepping off the track. She gave up. And given her coach's comments this year about maybe not even running Worlds, part of me did think in that split second where her momentum gets tossed, I'm like, does she just step off right now? Does she just pack it in? But no, it's a world championship. She's a competitor when she's in this meet. And she didn't panic. She came back and gained the ground smoothly, evenly. It wasn't like any rushing or anything. She made it look easy when it wasn't, coming from that far back and to advance to the final. I was incredibly impressed by not only her ability and her fitness to do it, but also the way she handled it strategically. So really great stuff from Athing Mu.
Comment here by Jonathan Turdeman. Mu was so impressed at the recovery today. But I cannot help but think that Kip Yeagon is actually the best female 800-meter runner in the world.
Oh, I would love to see that. That's more interesting than a 5K, I think. I mean, maybe she gets beaten the 5K tonight and would say no, but I'd love to see her in an 800. Paris 2024. Let's do it.
Now, John is praising Athing Mu, but I found out something today. John, who did you pick in your prediction contest to win the 800 meters?
I picked Keely because Keely shows up to championships, and I guess, well, the same stuff Keely does, Athing Mu has done just a little bit better the last 2 years. But I don't know. I thought this is the year, and it's hard to win 3 straight. I don't know. And it's all these questions about, is she going to even run the meet? I'm just like, I don't have that question about Keely Hodgkinson. I know she's going to show up and run and do absolutely everything there is to win. And I didn't have that feeling because Athing Mu was waffling about whether to even run here. So I kind of took that into account and picked Keely. But obviously, it wouldn't be surprised at all if Athing Mu won. What I will say about this, though, following Athing Mu's run, this is one of the most interesting moments of the World Championships, or at least in a prelim, or a semi, that one of the favorites for the gold medal, one of the big American stars, has this rough moment and is able to rally back. I'm like, man, that would be, I would love to know what she has to say about this. You know, what did she say to Lewis Johnson on NBC? And I'm texting Alex and Rojo back home. I'm like, yeah, can you transcribe it? You know, she didn't stop in the mix zone yesterday. She didn't even stop to talk to NBC. I mean, come on. Is it really that much to ask? 2 minutes to tell Lewis Johnson exactly what happened, what you were thinking, that sort of thing. Athing Mu's a major star in the United States. And she has a lot of fans, but I don't know. I just don't understand. If you don't want to talk to the press in the mix zone between rounds, I can accept that. You know, you have a final to focus on. But this was not going to be a huge imposition in her time. And yeah, I don't know. It's just a basic level of professionalism to me. Is just go to NBC. You're on US TV. You've got a lot of fans there. Tell them, oh yeah, I felt the South African stumble. I chose not to panic. Just tell us what you were thinking. That way everyone gets to hear from you. And, you know, I just don't like it that we don't get to hear anything from her after what was one of the most interesting races of the championships.
Comment here by Rojo's #1 fan. The first step I would take when I replace Max Siegel is to begin finding athletes and skipping media. USATF is a joke right now. The athletes don't have to talk, but fine, blow us off, but talk to NBC.
Yeah.
It takes literally 2 minutes.
You'll get 2 softballs from Lewis Johnson,
and millions of people can conceivably see what you have to say. Like, especially when you want to get cynical, when your sponsor is the same and you're Nike athlete and you got Nike on your chest. Like, I don't know. Rojas #1 fan also says Galt showing his British side, true British side, by picking Keely.
Well, it was funny because I was talking to Kyle Merber at the meet, and he's like, "So who are you rooting for?" And I'm like, well, "I don't root for athletes, but I used to root for Great Britain at the Olympics before I became a track journalist. That was the only time I would root in track and field for specific athletes. Really, was because it was a team thing, and it was like national pride in Great Britain." As opposed to, you know, I don't like just picking one individual. Like, what if the individual turns out to be an asshole or something like that? Yeah. I know there are assholes on like the Patriots, and there's probably assholes on Brighton and Hove Albion, but I can overlook that by just being blinded by the logo. When you're tied to one person, it's all, you know, it's more stress and higher stakes, that sort of thing. I don't know. I couldn't do it. But now I don't root for anyone because I'm in the media. So
yeah, now people are saying this is a journalist perspective. I just feel like she doesn't want distractions. Sure, it's our perspective. We want to hear from athletes, but we're saying blow us off. Go talk to NBC. Somehow, 95% of athletes are able to somehow do it. And also, Nia Akins didn't talk today. Was Josh Kerr talking through the rounds?
I think so.
Some athletes try to get in like mental mode. I think Centro would.
Centro wouldn't really do that. Sometimes he would, but not always. So but I get it. If it's a prelims and semis, I can understand that. Because you were like, oh, because it's not just stopping with us. There are all these other journalists. There's the written press. There's the non-rights holders TVs. There's a lot of people to stop by after prelims and semis. But taking 2 questions from Lewis Johnson is not, I can't imagine that's doing anything to anyone or hurting her preparation for the final. in any way. She's got a whole day in between to recover. So I don't want to dwell on this too much, but that's just my 2 cents as a journalist.
Breaking news: the Cowboys have traded for Trey Lance.
I was going to spring that on you and get your reaction.
I think isn't he really good?
What do you mean really good? He's played like 2 NFL games. He's thrown like 10 passes in his life. Well, then.
Go Cowboys. Anyway, back to like Keely and a thing. And Nia. Can someone put in the comments if Nia spoke to NBC? Because she didn't stop either.
Someone did say Nia did talk to NBC. Rojo's #1 fan saying that.
So
that's all I'm asking for
that's
after
all
the
you do.
semifinal.
Yeah. Like, blow us off all you want. And also, athletes are free to do however they want. But I think if that's your mindset, I don't know. You somehow need to try to have fun at these championships. Try to enjoy them. And people are saying in the comments, like, they don't see a lot of joy in Athing Mu saying, I feel like there's so much pressure for her to win. She's never seen anything but win. Whereas we are going to play some clips here because, one, we have to play clips from Raven Rogers because she's the only American to talk. But she's like, oh, this world is so different for me. And I'm like, why? And one, she's like, I'm enjoying myself. And then I think the clip here, people start talking about American sweep. And when you say this world is different, like, what other ways do you mean?
I'm having fun doing it. I'm having fun. I'm trusting the process. I'm able to, no matter what the outcome is, walk away with a smile on my face.
So in the past, you felt more pressure, or what's the word in the past?
In the past, I felt like I was trying to control it too much, so it caused anxiety. And so taking my control away, I'm able to just run and have fun, and run like I naturally run instead of adding all this pressure on myself.
I'm happy to like make the finals. And I guess I played the clip there. The other clip she was talking about, someone's like, an American sweep. She's like, yeah, well, I want to be in that equation. Don't count me out of that. So, I mean, maybe there's less pressure on her. She's not expected to win. So maybe it's easy to go in there and have fun. I don't know. It's hard to criticize these people, but I feel like a lot of the younger the athletes, and we sort of forget, Athing Mu is 21 years old. In the big scheme of things, she's a kid. She's an Olympic champion at 19. So I'm not like trying to criticize her, but I think if she just handled it slightly differently, the pressure wouldn't be there as much. But that's easier for me, some 50-year-old journalist, to say.
I don't want to say that. I mean, the one thing I would just say is this is a sport that's struggling for popularity, and it's not really. I know it's not Athing Mu's job to save the sport, but when you're as good as she is and as accomplished as she is and such a big star, for her not to even do a little, like talking to Lewis Johnson isn't going to fix everything, but it helps make a little bit turn a little people a little bit more into track fans, see a little bit more of your personality, and she has a great personality. So, all right.
Wait, Robert's clip, we got to get ready. But we did ask Keely, are you glad Athing Mu's here? Or would you rather have it a little easier to win the gold medal? You think have had such a great rivalry. Are you glad she's here, or would you rather have her not here?
Yeah, no, I am glad she's here. I wasn't sure whether she would or not, but I like to think she'd want to defend her title. I think it bodes more excitement to the event. We're one of the last races, so we make it a good one.
Yeah, and there's a lot of spotlight on this race. I mean, like, as she noted, like, I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but this is one of the last races. It's a huge matchup at the championships. So we can stop worrying about who stopped to talk to the media, whatnot. I mean, Sunday, we're going to have a great race.
Well, let's break this down, because what I also thought was fascinating about this Athing Mu near fall is she has said she deliberately avoids the rail because she doesn't want to get caught up. She has some of the longest legs and longest stride in the field. And if she's running right on the rail, she thinks there's a higher chance for contact. Well, she was running on the outside of the first turn, on the border between lane 1 and lane 2, and she still got caught up in it. It looked like Prudence Segodisco of South Africa was the one who stepped on her. I think that's what happened. Again, we didn't hear from Mo, but she still got caught up in it. The reality is, in an 800-meter race, unless you're just way, way ahead of everyone, there's always going to be at least some chance that you might fall down or something like that, or get caught from behind, clipped from behind. And the interesting thing about Athing Mu is she just doesn't race that often. So not only that, when she does race, she's very often near the front or just so much better than everyone else that doesn't have a ton of experience, certainly at the world-class level, of being like in the middle of these packs. Now, it's not to say she has zero experience. She won USAs and won Worlds last year in very tight-fought races, but she's used to being at or near the front and very often clear of people. And that's fine if you're very clearly the best in the world, which she has been the last couple of years. That might still be the case, but I'm wondering, Weldon, do you think she adjusts her strategy at all for the final? Do you think she just says, screw this, I'm going straight to the front, I'm just going to try to run 155 and run away from everyone, and that way I won't have to deal with contact? Or does she just play it a little bit more conservatively? Like, do you think that affects her at all?
I think it might affect her, but the sort of only wild card in this thing is like, I would need to see what Athing took it out and those, like the Olympics, that sort of split. But Mary Mora isn't afraid to take it out hard. So if Mary Mora is going out, I think Athing just felt like the pace was too hot today. I'm trying to see here what they split here in Mary's heat.
Weren't they like 57? Yeah, 57.3.
So that's not crazy, right?
I mean, it's pretty good clip, but yeah, there have been crazier first laps. The interesting thing though is Mora does like to lead. She'll go hard to the front, she'll back off a little bit in the middle, and then she'll accelerate again at the end. That's usually how she races. And if Athing Mu is saying, oh, I don't want to get caught up in a pack, I'm just going to take the lead, she might not have to fight Mary Mora for the lead. And she might have to surge a little bit more than she wanted, or, as we saw with Keely Hodgkinson and Lausanne, it can be hard to get around Mary Mora. So if Mo does that, I do wonder if they just kind of focus on reaching each other at the front, Mora and Mo, Hodgkinson might get a smoother ride, and she's just able to be like, relax, just hang back, and then try to snipe him down at the end. Or Athing Mu basically just realizes, maybe she thinks, look, I know how Mora goes. I know she's going to go through pretty quick, but she's going to back off maybe at the bell. And then Mo thinks, okay, that's when I strike. Or maybe I strike with like 350 to go when Mora taps back on the accelerator slightly, and that would give Mo the chance to take the lead and then just kind of hold it the whole way. So it is going to be fascinating to see how they play it tactically, especially given that Mo, for a two-time world champion, just doesn't have that many experience in sort of closely bunched 800 meters.
We have Rojo's live rankings here in the comments. Live 800-meter rankings. Athing Mu number 1, Keely number 2, Mora number 3, Riki 4, Aikens 5, Rogers 6. Mu isn't as confident as she was last year. I think she'd like to sit in second and blow everyone away.
I think she would like to do that, but I'm curious, like, is she going to have flashbacks to today if she's doing that?
But she's going to kill them. I think going out hard, serving as a rabbit for Keely, I'm not sure that's the best strategy, to be honest.
Worked in Tokyo.
I don't know if she's in Tokyo Fitness, but also if I want to like break down every heat, I thought Keely might have been straining a bit. I think Mo came back. I mean, how much you want to read into it?
People have been trying to read into the Keely thing. Keely has looked absolutely fine in both these races. I mean, Nia Aikens kind of put a charge into her, and she's just like, oh, all right, I'll just fight back and win the heat. Keely Hodgkinson did not look to be straining in either of these. We haven't seen close to her full capability, I don't think, yet in Budapest. I think she'll be right up there battling Mo for the gold yet again and could win it. I think this is her best shot to win it.
Despite Keely having run 155 this year in her opener, right? Outdoor opener, which is crazy. I just don't know if that's there now, which is maybe crazy to think. I think if there's a blowout, it's one way.
Mo blowing everyone out?
Mo blowing everyone away. I mean,
yeah,
she's the only one who's done that before. So do we think Keely can, for her first title, blow away everybody? I don't know. That's why I'm excited about this damn race.
Yeah, I'm not predicting a blowout, but I'll stick by my original prediction.
But I'm glad. You saw Keely in that clip, right? I mean, she's like glad to be here. She's glad Athing's here. She seems relaxed. Like, maybe it's easier. Maybe there's less pressure on her, but you could say, well, I have to win this year. Like, she just seemed to be kind of enjoying herself in the mix zones.
Totally.
She's 21 years old too. So people in very similar situations can handle it differently. And
it might just be
two
that
ways to skin a cat.
might just be that she hasn't won before. She comes in and she's like, I've shown up and I've gotten beat. And if I get beat again, you tip your hat and it's Athing Mu. Whereas Mo has never lost a professional 800-meter race. And I guess if you want to count this prelim now, which I don't, but if she loses, who knows how she'll handle it, because she hasn't lost this race as a pro. So it's going to be fascinating. It's a good way for the championships to end, for that to be one of the final day races of the day. Anyone who has tickets for Sunday, hopefully you see a classic. We got a classic last year. I'm glad that Mo is there to battle it out with Hodgkinson and Murat. And if one of them is to take her title, it's only appropriate that Mo's there to defend it. So it's great.
Rojo's putting comments on this. I don't know why he doesn't just join the podcast remotely, John, but he said he listened to last night's podcast and
yeah, he actually, this is related to.
He had a hot take related to Athing Mu's coach.
Yeah, here it is.
Sorry, I'm not sure you guys could hear that. He said, how about some love for Bobby Kersey?
Can't hear anything. All right.
All right, you guys can't hear that. We got to put it in.
So, all right, I'll give you the gist of it. He basically said, Bobby Kersey, he's taken Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone from the world champion to not racing worlds this year. Kenny Harrison's gotten slower in every single round of the final, which is exactly what you want from a hurdler.
Athing Mu nearly fell today.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think you can criticize him, but essentially, Robert's argument is Bobby Kersey overrated? He's viewed as this guru of the sport. I mean, I would say silver medal is a pretty damn good outcome for Kenny Harrison, who didn't even win the U.S. title. Now, after her first round, 12:24, you look at that and you're like, yeah, maybe silver, you think she can maybe do more, but am I supposed to totally rip on the guy for getting for Harrison getting the silver medal? I don't know. I mean, the Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone thing, I think that's a whole other issue with. I mean, Bobby maybe has his role in that, but I don't know exactly how much is Sydney, how much is Bobby, whatever. That's kind of something I don't have enough information enough about right now. But I don't know. Do we rip? Are we supposed to rip Bobby Kersey because Kenny Harrison only got the silver medal?
No, but she got worse in the rounds, which wasn't good. Look. Is Bill Belichick a great coach? Yes. Did they make him out to be God when he was winning everything? Yes. Now are they probably too harsh on him? Yes. It's like Goldilocks, right? The happy medium.
Yeah, I mean, Athing Mu was a world and Olympic champion under another coach. Bobby Kersey has coached many Olympic champions. He's a good coach. Kenny Harris, I think silver medal at the start of the year. Silver medal is a great outcome for Kenny Harrison. But, is it Bobby Kersey's fault that she only ran 12:44 in the final? I don't know. How much do you put that on Harrison? How much do you put it on him? It's kind of hard to say. But I was thinking that, Robert. I'm like, oh yeah, there has been a lot of praise about Bobby Kersey, and everything's focused on the world championships and all that sort of stuff. And then to see Harrison get slower and slower and slower every round, it did make me think of that. But I don't know. I can't unload the hot takes like Robert. That's his specialty. He had another one about another one.
No, this is good. This is actually Robert discovered something. I don't know if anyone has noticed this, but there's like millions of dollars at stake in this, and it's amazing that they haven't noticed it. But I think Rojo is 100% accurate. I want everybody to go back and rewatch any of the NBC races. Rojo is convinced that Lee Diffie is watching on its monitor, and the monitor is on about a 2-second delay from the live action on the track, and everyone else is commenting on the live action on the track. And a lot of in the mix zone, a lot of the TVs are like 15 seconds behind, but in the seats, I guess Robert's saying even the video feed is 2 seconds behind, and it makes a lot of sense. He reacts to Athing Mu's fall weight, where the other announcers announce right away, and they're like, And she comes to the finish line, and she's already passed the finish line in the sprints. So we're going to reach out to NBC. But it's kind of crazy that like the producer maybe hasn't even noticed that. But it seems something seemed a little off. And maybe it's hard to just get the call right. So you'd rather be like half a second late than get it wrong. But after watching 3 races, and Robert told me this, I'm about 95% confident.
Yeah, I mean, and it can be tough sometimes. Like the track, when you're calling some action, it could be like the other side of the track. Even without binoculars, it can be hard to ID some of those. And I don't think Lee Diffie is going to be calling races with binoculars. But yeah, I mean, it can be an issue sometimes if you're calling something and you're calling it late when all your viewers can see very clearly it's happening in real time. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how common this is for other broadcasters to do this. I don't get to see a lot of Lee Diffie's calls because I'm usually at the meets that he's calling, but I would be curious to hear about that and if it's something people have noticed in previous meets, because I can't remember someone picking this up before.
I mean, before I got here, being back home, I sort of remember thinking like, wow, that seems off. But not enough to be like, oh, it's 100% off, because it's just like a second or two. People in the comments seem to be agreeing with Rojo.
Yeah, also they were pointing out Kenny Harrison got the bronze medal. I apologize. Yes, Judgment Camacho Quinn was silver. So still, bronze still a pretty good outcome for Kenny Harrison. But
all right, well, tomorrow, before hopefully everyone in the United States wakes up, we have the women's marathon, where John thinks Keira DeMeadow could sneak in there and get a medal. Highly unlikely.
No, it's the men's marathon tomorrow. Oh, wait, it's the women's marathon tomorrow? Shoot. I have to get up for this, Weldon. I was saying, we don't worry about the men's marathon because nothing's, we don't know all the guys. Damn it. This is the one I might actually have to show up for, and it's 2:11 already. Shoot. This just threw a huge wrench in my weekend plans. I was going to go, hit a club off. No, I'm just kidding. But, okay, seriously, I was planning on getting that for the finish of this because I think D'Amato could do something. So we'll have to readjust on the fly. Maybe make this preview very brief. But the reason why I'm thinking she can do this, Weldon, I mean, she set the American record in the half marathon July 1st. And we know these hot weather marathons, the Ethiopians have a very poor track record the last couple of years. They won last year, but it wasn't even that hot at Worlds. And then they had a lot of DNFs in Tokyo and in Doha before that. I'm just thinking someone who trains in Richmond, Virginia, where it does get humid over the summer, might be prepared to do this. She ran well at the 20K in New Haven last year. I think Keira D'Amato has a shot to do something. And the heat will take a few people out. If she can respond well to the heat, she'll be right in that medal mix.
Yeah, I'm showing you about like 8 sub-220 marathoners in this thing. But a lot of them really aren't. There aren't a lot of superstars here. I mean, Rosemary Wanjiru is the fastest seed. Okay, she won Tokyo this year, 2:18 in her debut. She's been 4th in 10K at Worlds before. So she's actually pretty good. But like the other Kenyan runner, Tisehe, Ethiopian runner, was 2nd in Tokyo last year.
Well, there's Berahu, it's Amane Barisso's in there, who won Valencia last year and then was 2nd in Boston this year. So as long as she's okay for the weather, she'll be a threat. But you never know with some of these athletes. Tamarat Tola is in the men's race. He's signed up to run the Sydney Marathon on September 17th, like 3 weeks from now. So you never know how many of these athletes have a full marathon lined up that they just haven't told the World Championship organizers about, or they haven't told the full marathon people they're running World, something like that. I don't know. Yeah. Right? A lot of these people have backup plans, and if they might hang with the lead pack, and then as soon as they get dropped, they just drop out of the race.
I like your logic better. I mean, I'm analyzing this quickly on the fly. Like, yeah, Barisso is probably your favorite. Y squared, Yelzimra Yahula, who's run 63 half, 50 and a half, had the 2:17 marathon debut, won London last year. Maybe that was her debut in London anyway? I can't remember. She's in it. And then the last year's world champ, Gautam Ghebreselassie. Those are probably the 3 best. There's a few other 221s. Lona Salpeter, who medaled last year at Worlds. But yeah, John, a lot of these people, this race probably isn't their number one thing on their agenda. For Keira, it clearly is.
And she was
I mean,
8th last year. Remember, she
yeah.
barely had any prep for this because Molly Seidel withdrew at the 11th hour. And they're just like, oh, Kira, do you want that spot? And she's like, hell yeah, I've never made a U.S. team. I'm 37 years old. This time around, if you think she was 8th with that sort of preparation, now we know she ran the American record in the half. We know she's fit. We know she's been focused on this race. I'm very high on her prospects in this race. And the weather is a confounding variable. Like we saw, it got Molly Seidel to a bronze medal in Tokyo. What could it do for D'Amato?
Yeah, and to get a bronze here, you don't have to run as well as someone in Tokyo. Generally, the Olympics, it's just more of a priority for everybody. And here's the true rags to riches story. I said it was the best story in the sport in the last 10 years. That's been replaced. Now it's the accountant sprinter from Great Britain. John, what's his name?
Eugene Emodadzi.
I should obviously learn his name, but that has replaced Kira. But no, I mean, but this just shows she was a good collegiate runner. She starts a family. Her husband gets stationed overseas in the military. She's sort of running for her sanity, starts getting faster and faster. And now was the American record holder in marathon, is American record holder in the half marathon, and can like possibly get a medal. Like, this is all bonus gravy for her. Go get him, Kira. Like, it would be a super cool story. And then afternoon tomorrow, men's 800-meter final. The thing is wide open. Wanyoni probably the favorite, or Arop. Bryce Hoppel very easily could medal. Not very easily. Any of the 8 guys could medal, I think.
Anyone can medal. I don't think any of them can win it.
I agree with that assessment. And then we got it. The women's 5K final.
Kipyegon. No G'day, former world record holder, didn't end up running this event.
Gudov's the guy's in there, though.
Beatrice Chibet, the world cross-country champion. Gudov's the guy, the 10K champion. It's a stacked field. Should be fantastic race. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Kipyegon wins, but she has to be a heavy favorite. I mean, she just blasted the last lap of the 1500 in 56 seconds. She's also the world record holder in this event. How do any of these people beat her? Maybe she's just tired from having run 3 rounds in the 15 and then 14:32 in the 5K heats. And maybe that means Beatrice Chibet, who's only had to run 1 5K prelim, could snipe the upset. I just don't see it. I think Kipyegon just sits on whatever pace is set and then blasts them in the last lap.
I totally agree with the assessment, but she's not used to doing all these rounds. She's not used to doubling. But she hadn't run a 5K in 6 years, and she broke the world record in her first 5K this year?
8 years. Yeah.
Excuse me, 8 years. Like, that is sick.
And she closed in 60 in that race.
Right. It's just crazy.
Yeah. Okay. So that is going to do it from night 7. Can't believe it's been a week already. We've only got 2 days left. We've also got the 4x1 finals tomorrow night. That's always fun. 2 days of action remaining. Set the DVR at least for the women's marathon and just turn it on with an hour to go. I think that would be fun. And if D'Amato's in the lead pack, then you can get excited and start seeing what happens. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have another podcast for you tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Eastern, breaking down all those finals. Until then, Jonathan Gold here, Weldon Johnson, signing off from Budapest.